Hello everyone. In this video I will be covering things that you may have heard me cover before in my books and other videos, but it seems that people are still confused about some of these things and they keep asking me about them. There's also other things that I haven't covered before. So let's get into it. Who or what is Lucifer? Lucifer is the planet Venus. She is known as the morning and evening star. It is a feminine energy, which is why in the Bible, which is a book of allegory based on astrotheology with bits and pieces added and changed later, she is demonized. When it mentions the fall from heaven, it is symbolizing the divine feminine that is hidden and covered up. Everything female or feminine is demonized in the Bible because it was edited by eagles who know that women hold the power that leads to illumination, and they don't want you or anyone else achieving that, as that would mean them being free from their control and lies. The pentagram or pentacle is the symbol of Venus because it is the transit path that she makes in the sky in an 8-year cycle. 8 being the female infinity number. See my Life in Numbers video or the book or my article about that. The pentagram or pentacle is considered both divine and magical by many cultures because if you draw a pentagram, the lines automatically divide themselves into segments according to the divine proportion. The ratios of the line segments in a pentacle all equal pi, making this symbol the ultimate expression of the divine proportion. For this reason, the 5-pointed star has always been the symbol of beauty and perfection, and associated with the goddess and the sacred feminine. The sacred geometry of nature. Again, it's all about the goddess, Mother Nature, who created us all. Who or what is Satan? Satan is the dog star Sirius, which was named Isis in Egypt. She is a goddess and the representation of the polar opposite to our sun, which is a male energy. It is in binary orbit with our sun, and as our sun is 1, Sirius is 0. And because it is in binary orbit with our sun, it is called the black sun. As it is a female energy, which is opposite to the male sun, which provides light, it was demonized by the Christians as something dark and evil. The sun is God, and the black sun is the dog star. Dog reversed is God. Dogs were sacred in Isis's honor in Egypt, as her annual return to the sky at dawn on the 21st of June, which is the summer solstice, corresponds with the flooding of the Nile, which brought much needed water for growing food. So she was seen as the fertile mother goddess who brought life. Who or what is Jesus? People get confused about who Jesus was. If he was the Son of God, or if he even existed at all. Yes, he existed, and no, he wasn't the son of any god, because the God of the Bible is the Son. Jesus was a male of the serpent bloodline. He was from a pure line, and so not mixed at all with any of the other land apes like modern humans are. He was illuminated by Mary Magdalene, who herself was also a serpent bloodline member. And as my book and other videos explain, they went on to have children together. This continued on the serpent bloodline. He was a Tau, as was Mary Magdalene, and they helped a lot of aspirants. The eagles saw this and tried to convince people that he was actually the god of their new religion. That religion being the Roman Catholic Church. Before that, they had various gods and goddesses to represent the planets. But they decided it would be easier to get more control over people by focusing on one god, the sun, which they told Jesus and Mary Magdalene's followers was Jesus' dad, and made up a whole story about it. They even claimed he had died on the cross, like the sun does each year, when in reality he had escaped with Mary Magdalene to Europe. It was all to fit to the solar story of death and rebirth that happens each day with the sun, and on a larger scale each year. What do you mean that celebrities have sold themselves to the devil? I've seen interviews where singers practically admit this. The symbolism they use in their music videos and performances looks very satanic. The devil represents our dark side, the side of us which includes things like the desire for material wealth, celebrity status, fame, luxuries, and the feeling of being better than others. If you don't balance your dark side with the light, it means you are trapped in the material world and can never be free of it. In other words, can never truly know yourself or become illuminated. Celebrities who think they are worshipping Satan when using these symbols clearly don't know what the symbolisms they use means. Satan, as I have already explained, is not evil, nor is Lucifer. Most often, those who are unaware, usually silly teenagers and insecure people, use these symbols because it makes them feel cool or edgy. In regards to Aleister Crowley, why was he called the evilest man ever? I thought his rituals and incantations were real, and he promoted and endorsed these evil practices to reach a trance-like state in order to achieve immortality and power over others. Aleister Crowley was seeking illumination but was looking in the wrong places. He knew he had to balance his dark side with the light, but he slipped too far into the abyss and couldn't escape. He was trapped inside a hell of his own making when he became addicted to drugs and sex. He knew he had to find a red-headed female for the great rite, but he didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and so was doomed to fail. His ideas were still very much of the ego mindset that women are inferior and are only there to be used by men. But even a tiny shred of those kind of ideas would mean his heart was not in the right place to perform the great rite. People thought he was evil because they don't understand ceremonial magic and its purpose, which is self-realization or illumination. When you talk about teachers near the end of one of your videos, aren't you also doing the same thing? I am a Gnostic Tau. As such, it is my duty to not so much teach, but lead people in the right direction, so they themselves can come to Gnosis. I answer questions sometimes, like in these videos, and my books, but generally keep guiding people to look within. I always say to those on the church course, when they keep asking me questions about things, that it doesn't really matter what I or anyone else believes. You have to connect to your own higher self and ask them, because when you do, you can no longer be tricked. It isn't an easy process to cut out all the noise of so many pushing disinformation and to look inside, which is why so many fail. And it is so much easier to make no effort and just ask someone else. Our church just gives those willing to do the work the tools and the support they need to accomplish it on their own. But don't listen to me, don't listen to others, just listen to you. Who are the Ashkenazi Jews? They don't speak Hebrew, they speak Yiddish, which is a Germanic language. So are they just Germans who adopted Judaism? Hebrew as a spoken language was lost to the Hebrew people in about 586 BC, when a good proportion of the Jewish people were carried off to Babylon in what was known as the Babylonian exile. When that period in history ended, many Jews returned home to Judea. The common people were speaking Aramaic. Hebrew was indeed retained as the language of the Bible, scholarly writings, prophets, and learned by priests and scholars. It was lost to the common people, except as the Bar Mitzvah Torah portion and for their prayers. When Jews began migrating into Europe, after the Jewish state fell to Rome, 135 AD, Aramaic was useless as a spoken language. So, of necessity, the Jewish people began speaking medieval German, but still wrote the medieval German in ancient Hebrew characters, like they had Aramaic. That is called the alphabet. Another reason the Hebrew letters were used is because Europe had not yet learnt to write, with the exception of some of their scholars and priests. When a language is written down, it freezes, that is, does not change so much. German speakers without a written language did unconsciously alter their language until it evolved into Middle High German, familiar today. That is why Yiddish seems strange to them. What would become Yiddish, or the Jewish language known in Europe, had many Hebrew additions, borrowed words from other languages, became the language of the European or Eastern Ashkenazi Jews. So Hebrew as a spoken language lay dormant in the Bible and in its people's minds, until it was revived when Jews started to return to their homeland in the 1870s till the present. The serpent bloodline families have always used Hebrew in their ceremonies because the characters were created from stellar constellations, and it vibrates harmoniously through our chakras, which works as a form of meditation and healing. How tall were the red-headed giants? I assume here you are referring to how the Native Americans describe the serpent bloodline people that they encountered when they first arrived in the Americas from Asia. They were the same height as Neanderthals have always been, approximately 5'5" to 6'2". That includes women who were shorter. But the serpent bloodline are much bigger than Asian people. It wasn't only the height that made them giants compared to Asians. It is also the fact that they are much more muscular and have thicker and bigger bones. To a small Asian person, we really do look like giants. The Georgia Guidestones. I understand the fear and confusion in those who decided to blow up the Georgia Guidestones. I can't, however, see a problem with what was on them, and even if I did, I wouldn't feel the need to smother someone else's right of freedom of expression of their ideas and thoughts. Ignorance is usually what leads to this type of behaviour. Much like the Islamic State destroys all the beautiful ancient statues and buildings that don't fit to their ideology, the people who blew up the Georgia Guidestones are no different. That kind of behaviour is never acceptable, and I feel the same way about vandalism of any kind. You do you, let others do them. But what I think most people get confused about is the purpose of them. They assume the worst of people who put them there, much like so many people think the worst of everyone or anything they encounter that slightly differs from their own programmed set of beliefs. The idea of the Georgia Guidestones was that they could withstand a nuclear war or natural disaster, so that the survivors might read those words and see it as a guide to a better future. It says nothing at all about culling the current population. See what happens when people jump to conclusions without knowing the facts, and use their twisted view of things to destroy things they don't understand and don't even want to understand. Not good. And those misguided individuals will now think they have won some kind of battle against the dark side from destroying something. It's quite pathetic, really. What about the Franks? The Franks were very much an eagle bloodline, a fraction that were divided from the mainstream, because as is usually the case, one of them didn't want to follow whoever was chosen as leader, and so they secretly gained support until they had enough on their side to break off on their own. The Franks knew about the divine feminine and also the need to grow your hair long to help with illumination, and they always tried their best to only have children with serpent bloodline women. But they suppressed women in all ways. Women were not even allowed to inherit their own land. Here's a section from the Thessalic law. But of Salic land no portion or inheritance shall come to a woman, but the whole inheritance of the land shall come to the male sex. Or another transcript. Concerning Terra Salica, no portion of inheritance is for a woman, but all the land belongs to members of the male sex, who are brothers. They did side with other groups of eagles in wars at times, and other times they fought each other. Do Gnostics, Manichaeists, and Manichaeists, I don't know how to pronounce those, sorry, all share a common philosophy about the life of Christ? If not, what is the real difference between them? There are hundreds of sects and groups calling themselves Gnostics, just like there are hundreds of groups calling themselves Christians, and the same with Wiccans and any other tradition. And this is usually because someone gets ideas from someone else, or is a member of a group, but they disagree with something the leader of that group says, so they set up on their own. Each group will have its own set of beliefs and ideas, all mixed in with some of the original teachings of the serpent bloodline families. Sometimes it's so far removed from our original teachings it contains no similarities and is just dogma and ideologies of one of the leaders. People can call their group anything, but if you want to find the real underground stream teachings, there is only one place it can ever truly be found. Okay, that's all now. If you have any more questions, keep them coming and I may put them in my next video. And YouTube don't give me anything for making these videos, so if you want to support me, please send me some dosh through PayPal and it'll help me greatly to keep making more and more videos. Okay, that's all for now. Take care and see you soon. Bye.